All right, welcome to this edition of Make Shit Run. Well, we're going to try to make this piece of shit run. If you've seen some of my other videos, you've seen, of course, Dog Bite over there, and we're still working on that. We've got a new engine, transmission, torque converter, so we're going to get ready on that one pretty quick and start throwing out some videos on the destruction, the tear down, and the rebuild on that. But we were at the lake the other week, or last weekend I should say, and this was running just fine. We were having a good time. I was out there just riding along with my buddy, and all of a sudden it just started losing some power. And I noticed before, I've had this problem with other jet skis, you start to lose power, something's going wrong. Checked gauges, everything else seemed to be fine. It wasn't overheating, but rode it back straight back to shore, got it back to shore, opened it up, and there was a bunch of water down in the bottom. I don't know if you can see where the drive is. There's the drive coupler right there. And water was not up over the top of the coupler, it was up to the coupler, enough for the coupler to slosh water all around the inside of the ski. And we have a couple priming holes here on the top, so unfortunately with all that water sloshing around, it did suck some into the carburetors, but that's not the problem we're having. I have had problems in the past with the electrical box, and I have replaced the electrical box, the CDI, and other things due to complete electrical catastrophe where the straps on the battery broke. The battery fell into the box, and when it did, the positive ground wire right here grounded on the box. There's only one ground wire that goes from the box to the engine, and that's in the wiring harness as part of the stator, which is up in the front. So the entire wiring harness from the stator up in front all the way through down here and into the box completely fried, and it fried the igniter module. Okay, so wouldn't start, so I bought a box, I bought new components, I bought coils, all that stuff. Put it in. Now I did buy the igniter used, but it ran fine, I'd say 95% of the time. It's always had a weird thing ever since we got it put back together, that you'll crank it once, even with the choke on, it'll act like it's not doing anything. You let off the switch, crank it one more time, and it fires up like it should have had fuel the whole time. So that's always been kind of weird. The first crank has always been like a no spark, no start, but it, never lasted long enough for me to worry about it or care too much, as long as it started and ran. But ever since we got water in this thing and it sloshed around, it has not wanted to start. At the lake, it started back up a few times that we had it there. It did a no start for a little while where it had no spark, and then all of a sudden it came back, and I even wrote it again trying to figure out where the water was coming from. Of course, when I got it back here, I wanted to run it because the engine had some water in it from being sucked in through the air holes there, and I wanted to make sure we didn't have any more water in the crankcase, so I tried starting the ski up, and it's gonna hook up the hose and let it run with some water through it for a while to try to dry out the crankcase, and it wouldn't start back up. So I've had problems with the electrical box before, but we're going to go through a complete and thorough tutorial on how to test all the components, what kind of readings you need to get on most of these components, looking for proper resistances, looking for proper voltage outputs. We're even going to use a scope to check for proper waveform analysis. If everything else checks good, then that CDI box inside there is probably the problem. And again, there's an extreme form of repair that we'll talk about later for those CDI boxes as a last-ditch resort to see if you can't get that to create some spark. But we're going to be looking at and using the wiring diagrams, specifications from the actual manual, and then looking at actual resistances, waveforms, and that type of thing. Okay, so let's see if we can M.S.R. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is turn on the ignition, flip the ignition on, and then of course over here got the lanyard. And on the wiring diagram, these two switches are hooked together. Okay, if you have cranking ability, then you have power going through here. If this won't crank over, you're not hearing anything click, then you've got a problem maybe in this. But this has been ruled out as a problem because with this engaged, the bike will crank over. Like I said, we've got the spark plug tester here. Sorry, that's my finger. And as you can see, we got a fully charged battery. It's cranking over really well. And I really don't like to stress out the starter too much when looking for spark on something like this. So I'm going to hang the other two plug wires back here on the loom where they're supposed to be. Pull the plugs out. That way when I crank the engine over, I'm not putting a lot of stress on the starter trying to overcome compression events. Okay. All I need is for the engine to spin and for me to be able to get these voltage and waveform signals from the engine as it's turning. So I like to pull the plugs out so it's just less of a drag on the engine. Also, it's these things are known for the starter drives going out, the Bendix in there, the actual one-way Sprag clutch going bad. So less times you have to crank it under compression, the better. And it doesn't put as much drag on the starter either. So, but I just wanted to show you that, yeah, right now, as of now, no spark across the gap. And that's the problem. Yeah, fuel system's working fine, the carburetors are great. When this thing is running, it is flat fast. The reason why I got water coming in, though, is we found two holes somehow in the hull. Don't know how those were put in there, but you know, things happen on the water. So we're gonna get some fiberglass. We'll fix that. That's incidental. That's easy stuff. But when it doesn't want to start, and you're looking at a two-stroke with a CDI box, it's not your average beast. So we're gonna see what we can do. I hope it turns out successful, and wish me luck.